Hello again. So in this lesson I would like to talk about some special reporters that I kind of think of these as predicates too, but they're a little bit different in that their output is true or false, just like any predicate, but also their input is always either true or false. So there's three of them. So let's look at them one at a time. So there's a predicate called not, and that takes one input and has one output. So let's draw the tank for that. So this guy if his input is, let's see, if his input is false, I bet you can guess what this guy does. Even if you don't remember from last year. Okay, so for this special reporter not, if his input is false, his output is true. And if his input is true, then his output is false. Okay? So so you can do something like show not equal 4 and 7. So what does this do? Well, so basically we're walking along doing our evaluation. Not show needs one input, so it looks to not for its input. Not needs an input, needs a true or false, right? So not goes to this predicate equal and says, you know, you got a true or false for me, and equal says, I'll give it to you as soon as I get my input. So equal marches along and collects the 4 and the 7, so it gets the two inputs that it needs. It's going to output, since 4 and 7 are not equal, it's going to output false. Okay, so equal is going to output false. And since the output to not is going to be false, then not is going to output a true, and then show is going to show that true. Show is going to print out the true, I'm sorry. Okay? So that's how not works. And again in Python, we have a not operator. Let's get these back. Let me see. Yeah. So we could say something like, I'll just comment out the prints here. So if we said something like, so A evaluates to either true or false, right? So A, in this case, A evaluates to true because 7 is greater than 3, right? So if we say print not A, so this exclamation point is just putting an exclamation point in front of true or false is going to make it, is going to do what the not operator does. So if A is true, then not A is false, yeah? Oops. Oh, hold on. How about this? Yeah, sorry about that. So I get confused with the syntax myself sometimes. So it's not, so it's the same thing as in microworlds, even better. So if you just say not A, then it'll come out as false. All right. Or if we said not true, comes out as false, and not false comes out as true. Okay? So, yeah, so not works for both languages. There's an, let's see, okay, so there's another one called and. That takes two inputs. And these two inputs are either true or false. Okay? So and is a little more complicated. If both the inputs to and are true, it outputs true. In all other cases, it outputs false. So true and false is false. False and true is false. And false and false is false. So, one thing to remember always about programming languages in general is that, you know, there's an attempt that's made to use English words to try to fit into what we want the computer to do. But just because the word looks like some word that you know in English doesn't mean it's always going to behave exactly the way you expect. Okay? So when you hear the word and can mean a lot of things in English. For programming languages generally, so this goes for Logo and for Python, and has a very specific meaning. It takes two inputs, and if both the inputs are true, it takes two inputs, and those inputs have to be either true or false, right? If both the inputs are true, then it returns true. If one of the inputs is false, it returns false. Okay, so let's look at that in Python. So we could say print a. Now, and also in Python, you write it in a more, it looks a little bit more like English, right? Because we don't usually say and me Dolores. We usually say me and Dolores, right? So in Python, the and goes in between the two operands. Okay, so let's see. A is true, B is false. So if we print A and B, that should give us a false, right? Let's see. Yeah, false. Okay. So if we say, but if we say true and true, okay, that'll give us a true. Okay. So it's the same deal as, as in true and false, false and true, and false and false. So it's the same logic as in Logo. It looks a little bit different, but if both the operands, both the inputs to and are true, then the result is going to be true. Otherwise, it's false. Okay. So then there's one other one that's similar to this that's called or. And again, or has a very specific meaning in programming languages. So or also takes two inputs. Those two inputs need to be either true or false, and the output is either true or false. So let's look at or. So, you know, I'm purposely using some very simple examples, so it might make you think, you know, what is the point of this, this and or and not stuff? But when we get to the more interesting applications of this, it'll be clear why we use these. Okay, so if we OR together true and true, we get true. Okay, true. If we OR together true and false, we get true again. Okay, so if one of the inputs is true, then the output is true. But if both of the inputs are false, then the output is false. Okay, so let's compare that. I think it's easier even in the code sculptor to compare that with and. If I'm going to stick a extra print in here to give us some space. Now, if we make these into OR, okay, so AND is only true if both inputs are true. OR is only false if both inputs are false. All right, and then let's stick true, false. Stick that in there too. So not true is false, not false is true. Okay, and let me just repeat this one more time. It's worth repeating because it takes a little while to get it. When you say AND, it's just an operator. So kind of, if it helps you to think of AND, to compare AND to English, then do it. But otherwise, just forget about the AND that you know and love when you're talking to people, and just think of AND as an operator. When you're programming, think of AND as an operator that turns two trues into a true, and every other true false pair into false. Okay, and OR only gives you a false if both its inputs are false. Okay, otherwise it gives you a true.